All right, Project. Welcome to the after show number 59. And look, we're going to progress a little bit on what we spoke about last week. A lot of stuff has happened in the world of CrossFit with, firstly, Justin Berg, the general manager. Is it the general manager or the head of CrossFit Games?
I think he's general manager of the CrossFit Games.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so different to Dave Castro, but more he's like the behind the scenes of Dave Castro. So he came out and he had a video speaking about the drug testing, so you should definitely watch that. I think it's about 20 minutes. We're also on YouTube right now. The YouTube video was extremely popular.
We got a lot of messages about me not wearing a shirt in the video.
Yeah.
So I've got a singlet on, so I'm like compromised.
Maybe we could just become the shirtless podcast. That'd be a thing. It'd be unique. Okay, so we also had, who did we have? We had Nick Fowler, if you hadn't listened to that yet. So he's the guy who coached the brute strength, the Wasatch Brutes to the gold medal in the CrossFit Games. So that was cool. And there was also some other stuff in there about him programming for different athlete types and stuff. So really cool. This week, we're going to talk about Ice Guardians. That's our Netflix doco. And then we have Tia Claire Toomey, his coach, running coach Tim Branson on the show later as well. This show today to talk about how he trained Tia in her running, and then how the treadmill is making a negative impact in people's training, I believe, with like their running training, essentially. That's something that you guys spoke about, Raf. But before we get into that, this show is brought to you by Activated Nutrients. You guys know the deal. 50 whole food vitamins and more. They absorb better than synthetic vitamins. I take it every day. I'm now up to 2 teaspoons.
Jesus.
Yeah, I'm on ham sandwich. My gut can tolerate it. Pre and probiotics mixed in there as well. You can get it for 20% off at MMP, activatenutrients.com, and on Amazon as well. All those codes should be working. Oh, speaking of codes working, we now just opened up with free New Zealand and free US shipping, also free Canadian shipping.
Jesus.
What is up? So we'll definitely be shouted some, to make up for the shipping loss. Obviously, when we travel to Canada, I expect maple syrup,
$11
pancakes, bacon, all that stuff. I was going to say, we're going to be at the Invitational as well.
Sorry, that's for the Training Journal.
Yeah, for the Training Journal.
Yeah.
The Training Journal, the mymuscleproject.com/the Training Journal. If you don't know what it is, you're a fool. You're an absolute fool. You need to stop this podcast now and go check it out. So we're going to talk in depth about SARMs and exactly what they are. This is the stuff that Ricky knowingly took. Claims that he didn't know the research. Claims he did the research and it told him that they were safe to take. It's simply not the case. So we're going to talk exactly what they are and give you guys the 401 on exactly what they are. So you can be educated on them. If you decide that you want to take them now and be like Ricky, we'll tell you exactly what's involved. But we just also booked our tickets to the Reebok CrossFit Invitational in Melbourne. So we just need to book flights for that. Remind me to do that, Raf. So if anyone is hanging out at the Invitational or traveling from around the world, wants to hang out, we're bringing our new toy, which is, if you're on YouTube, you can see it now. It's our super camera. Oh, yeah. And we're going to be filming a little Invitational behind-the-scenes documentary. Yeah, something like that. All right, cool. So let's talk about these this Netflix doco before we get into these SARMs.
So we had Ice Guardians this week.
Fantastic.
And it is a movie about the enforcers in ice hockey. So it's always fights in ice hockey. And so it turns out, I didn't notice before the movie, but there's like, these days, more recently, there's been like basically one dude on the team. And when someone like fucks with anyone on their team, he's the guy that goes out there and just starts fighting people.
Yeah.
And he's just like the biggest dude. And he's like specifically there, like he's ready to fight. He knows it's like he needs to be fighting.
Yeah. It's interesting because they have it like this. Without an enforcer, in the leagues that don't have an enforcer, the skilled players get hurt more off the puck. So they're saying that because I think how the movie came about is because the enforcer has been removed from the NHL as of
They're trying
this
to
season.
remove them, yeah.
I think they have been removed.
Yeah, well, it seems like they're no longer willing to put them on the rosters.
Or they removed fighting or something like that. You're not allowed to stage fighting.
They've made it harder and harder to fight, basically. Like all the rougher rules, so that basically now it's like not really worth putting an enforcer on your team
on your roster, yeah. But previously the role of the enforcer was to protect his skilled players by sheer presence and fighting.
And bullying.
Yeah, but without that player now, the skilled players are more exposed to cheap shots with the stick, big hits off the puck. I mean, these guys are going 50, 60 kilometers an hour on skates. Imagine driving in a car, right? 60 k's an hour. We're going head on. and then right at the last second, I jump out my door, you jump out your passenger door, and we collide into each other. Like, that is fucking
Yeah, the hits
savage.
are hard. And also because
Savage.
they wear so much equipment,
Yeah.
it makes it so much worse. Because you can just, like, launch your body into somebody and you have, like, no repercussions because you just padded up.
Yeah. Well, they said the equipment changed from equipment that was designed to protect the user versus now equipment that's designed to harm the opponent. So instead of wearing defensive gear, you're now wearing like offensive gear. So now you're using your equipment as a weapon, whereas before it was basically just to protect you. It's pretty
They're
intense.
tough people in ice hockey.
It's fucking crazy.
Yeah, it's a crazy sport.
Ice hockey is the craziest sport of all time. That and the UFC. But ice hockey is probably a bit more crazy because they're fucking on ice. They're wearing fucking blades. Anyway, check it out. Ice Guardians. I'll go first this week. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5.
Yeah, I thought the movie was really very entertaining. And I think if you don't know much about ice hockey, like I couldn't believe how much fighting there was, and like motherfuckers are like training for fighting.
Yeah.
But equally, I thought it was like ridiculously one-sided, and I also just don't think they should be in the sport. I think they should just get rid of fighting, and they shouldn't be enforcers. I think
But
it's
the
ridiculous.
guys are getting hurt and injured and
Yeah,
shit.
but there are cheap shots in every sport. You cannot tell
Yeah,
me
but they're
like
saying it's getting worse.
yeah, I just think it's like in the short term, but like in football, these should be cheap shots. Like you would obviously try and take out the quarterback. It was worth it to get like taken out of the games, and they just crack down on it so hard. And now like you never see a punch thrown in the NFL, and it works. And like there's heaps of skilled like players in lots of sports and opportunities to get destroyed, and they just have to crack down on it. And I was like, at the end, they're like, yeah, we're picking like actually good hockey players instead of enforcers. I'm like, that sounds like the right thing. Like we have a sport of fighting. If you're actually good at fighting, go do fighting. If you're good at hockey, play hockey.
Right.
It was a bit silly that like these guys that are like moderately good at fighting, just wailing on dudes that suck at fighting. Like they're essentially fighting people half their size.
No, but
who suck at fighting.
they're supposed to be fighting the other enforcer.
Sometimes, but sometimes because if you take out the skilled player, it's because you know you're about to get destroyed by the scariest man alive.
Yeah,
so I
but
think they
it's-
take out anyone.
No, they do, but the point is that because they're there and they're in official position, that person would almost never do that now.
Really?
Because
Because they take on the other enforcer.
Yeah, because they got to answer to the
It's
enforcer.
crazy.
Yeah,
It is crazy. So anyway, it's really, really entertaining. But just because I like disagree with the movie a little bit, it hurt my rating. So that's why I'd give it a 3. But I was probably enjoying it like a 4. But just at the end, I was like, I don't think they need enforcers.
So, a little bias. I love ice hockey. I'm a huge fan. I watched the Mighty Ducks so much that I broke the VHS tape.
You mean
It
like
was playing?
It's
and
not
it
a real team, right? It's the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, the movie.
No, the Anaheim Mighty Ducks is a real team.
Right.
But they made a movie that's a
them.
fictional movie. Yeah.
I don't know if that's fictional.
Thing's real?
It seemed real to me.
Like reality TV. But
It is such a good movie.
yeah, but I played it so much. I just remember one day the film melted. Yeah, it just stopped playing. And my dad's like, "Oh, you've watched it too many times. I have to get a new one." Fucking bricky.
When we were,
VHS
when we were in Canada, we actually went to an ice hockey game. I will say one thing. I think the reason there is fighting potentially is ice hockey is quite boring. A lot of the time, it was like there was
You're
no
gonna get
there was
so
no goals.
much hate for saying
Probably
that.
there was no game. We went to watch the Toronto Maples. There was no goals scored, and there was no fighting, and it was quite boring. I mean, maybe it's like a soccer game where it's 0-0. Like it just ends up being pretty boring. It was 0-0, no fighting. I was disappointed. So I was like, I could see how some fighting could lighten this thing up.
Yeah. Hey, yeah. Well, maybe it's just like every sport has boring games,
Yeah,
and you just got a
100%.
boring game.
Could be unlucky.
You know what I mean?
Definitely was. It was 0-0.
Wow, boring. Okay, let's get into SARMs. So, SARMs, the acronym for specific androgen receptor modulators. And okay, so we're not scientists or biologists, so we're gonna
But we're
fuck.
trying to be.
We're gonna fuck a lot of this up. So we're just gonna try and stay as much in our lane as possible. Now, if you want someone who is a lot smarter than us to talk about it, if you just type in "what are SARMs" on YouTube, there are a couple guys that are quite. I think they have about 50,000+ views on each video. You click on those, and they'll tell you more about it. They've done more research on this. But I just got the footnotes of these videos, so you guys don't have to listen to them. So testosterone and Endurobol were the SARMs that... so SARMs are a pill or they're a liquid. You can buy them online. It's really dodgy to buy online. We'll go into that in a sec. But it's essentially the stuff that Ricky took. They're actually of the least popular SARMs. The most popular SARM is Ostarine. And Ostarine was the SARM... So there was a guy in, I think it was Noah Olsen's region, who came 5th. He was part of the Circus du Soleil team.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's an old guy. And he got caught with Ostarine, which was another SARM.
Oh, really?
That's why he got disqualified for that. So they're kind of like a new age performance enhancing drug. And Well, basically, I'll read off my notes. So, firstly, apparently they're not legal to sell for human consumption. So, they are legal to possess and have. Like, if you are caught with SARMs, you're not going to get, unless they can prove that you're using them for human consumption, that you're not going to get fined. Am I saying this correctly, Raf? You're the legal guy.
Yep.
Yeah. But if you are trying to sell them for human consumption because there's no human research on them, they're quite dangerous, you will get arrested. It is illegal. Does that sound correct?
Yeah, I think you're talking about America at the moment.
Yeah, in America, sorry. Yeah. What's it in Australia? Do we know?
I was looking at it. It seems Australia has like really strict rules on PEDs in Australia. But
more so than America.
Yeah, from what I could tell, it seemed like it fell into like a grey area.
Okay.
Yeah, it didn't seem like they had like any rulings on it. And it's like essentially unknown a bit at the moment. Seems like it falls into a grey area, a bit like peptides, which actually are legal in Australia.
Yeah.
So like there are like proper companies that are selling it in Australia.
Yeah. The legality of something is important because as soon as it becomes illegal in any sort of sense, it becomes more dangerous for the user because it then moves to the black market. And obviously in the black market thing, you just don't really know what you're getting unless you have proper testing kits and a reliable source. But that's super hard to guarantee. So it being legal, even though you probably shouldn't take it anyway, no judgment. It's your choice. You can take whatever you want. It's probably less safe to take something that's illegal because it's black market, where if it's legal, legit companies can produce them and sell them, that sort of thing, in proper labs that are regulated by whoever, some body. I don't know. It's going to be cleaner. Anyway.
For sure. When you're dealing with criminals, like that's probably not a good start.
Yeah. Yeah. Unless they're successful criminals. All right. So the advantage of SARMs over anabolics, like traditional steroids like Dianabol and Anavar, testosterone, stuff like that, is the word specific. So that means that they bind only to skeletal and muscle tissue, which is obviously the tissues that you want to enhance performance. So there's two different things that an anabolic steroid can give you. Firstly, it's the anabolic effects, which are like strength gains, muscle gain, lean tissue, and then fat loss, that sort of stuff. And then there's androgenic properties, which are like deepening your voice, increasing your sex drive, more hair, that sort of stuff. Now, when you take like an anabolic steroid, you get the best of both worlds. You get both. You get anabolic effects, so you get the muscle mass, you get the fat loss, you get the strength gains. You also get deeper voice, you get increased hair all over your body, and you get increased sex drive. But with SARMs, you get just the anabolic effects minus the androgenic effects. So you get the strength gains, you get the muscle mass, you get the fat loss, but you don't get the deepening of the voice, the excess hair growth, the increased sex drive. So you're kind of thinking, oh, well, that's awesome. Like, I don't get all the negative side effects that are usually associated, like bitch shits and that sort of thing, and just hair in random places and acne and all that stuff. But I get all the cool properties of like being strong and being bigger and that sort of thing. But because it is, so how is it explained? Because it is acting as testosterone in your muscles, essentially, your body's going to shut off its natural production of testosterone, which means you're not going to get any of the androgenic effects at all, which means if you start taking a SARM, it's very likely that your own testosterone will shut off. But because something like testosterone still gives you the sex drive and it still gives you the hair growth and that sort of thing, the SARM doesn't give you any of that. So you lose all that completely because your natural production shuts off. So your voice will get fucked up. You'll start losing your hair. You'll have no sex drive. But obviously you get all the anabolic effects. So it's that's your risk. If you want to lose your sex drive and all that, that's on you. I think it's a bit squirrely to be playing around with this stuff. Another thing is, one thing to consider is, it is very black market, and at the moment, all the tests and all the studies that have been done have only been done on animals. So there's not a lot of stuff on humans. In fact, almost nothing. So you're essentially playing Russian roulette. And in one of the studies with animals, I can't remember which SARM they used, the animals all got cancer and died. So if it's doing that to animals and we haven't tested on humans yet, I don't know why you'd go putting it in your body. It sounds pretty stupid to me. And a lot of the other ones haven't even been tested yet. So there is no human trials, and it's your risk. And so one of the other guys was doing research in like of all the users of SARMs. So he went on their YouTube channels, watched their transformation videos, their photos, what they've been reporting, and he essentially said they weren't very good results. The people that had been getting the good results were the only people that got good results were stacking it with anabolics like testosterone and Anavar and stuff. So,
which is often the case with that stuff.
Yeah, he basically said, look, SARMs don't really work as far as he can tell. So, I don't know. Maybe Ricky was having no effect. Maybe that dude's just really fit. Who knows? And that's SARMs 101, according to the Bible of the MMP. Any questions?
Well, I did also see that it has actually been used in athletes for quite a while, for nearly 10 years now. Athletes have been trying to use it.
Yep.
Obviously, it's been prohibited for a long time. And yeah, it actually really does seem like it's legal. It's like a research drug in Australia.
Okay.
I think
but not legal for human consumption, or yes?
For research.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So you can buy it and just say, I'm researching it.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly. I think you'd have to have more than that. But what it means is I think it's not very difficult to get your hands on.
Yeah.
You don't need to go through like shady black market websites or anything.
Okay.
But yeah, you're right. It doesn't seem like there's like unbelievable evidence that it works.
So maybe he's just super fit. Maybe it's just the mental edge.
That is like unbelievable if in the end like that stuff didn't actually make any difference. It's crazy to think.
Yeah.
It's possible.
Yeah.
People don't realize that that sometimes this stuff doesn't actually work.
Yeah. But look, put it this way. If you're willing to put that kind of risk into your body, who knows what other stuff you've been using as well. It might just be an in-season drug that you're using versus an out-season drug. Apparently, the testing for SARMs is extremely expensive and very difficult as well. So,
what do you mean to know if you're doing it? Or?
Yeah, to test positive for SARMs. Like, it's a very different... How you test the urine or whatever is more expensive and more difficult. It's a more lengthy process, which Justin was saying in his interview, the general manager across the games, is like, they basically did that test, invested in that test because of the rumors that they heard.
About SARMs?
Yeah, it wasn't random.
Really?
Yeah, he was like, okay, so we're getting the rumors, we're getting this, like, we're going to target this person. So
is that why it's possible he didn't get caught at regionals and did get caught at the games? Different testing?
Yes, I think so. I think they were doing testing for different stuff in his urine sample. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Because that actually was a question I had that I wasn't sure.
Double check. Watch it. Double check. Yeah.
It was a pretty good video. I mean, like they tried to answer, I think, all the questions people have on Instagram.
Yeah.
Probably like the biggest question that still doesn't 100% get answered is, like, people still say that it's the best when you just completely hand it over to a third party.
Yeah, like water.
Yeah, and
they're looking into it.
They are. And they've probably got pretty good reasons not to. And I think it is reasonably fanciful to think that like they're like hiding results and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But everyone does say, like the head of USADA always says, it's never perfect or never the best it can be until you hand it over to an independent third party.
Yeah. I think because CrossFit doesn't have enough money, it's too risky to lose your superstars to third-party testing. Because essentially, as a business, you can't control what your athletes are doing, right? So if your biggest superstar that brings you in the most revenue throughout the year tests positive and you lose him, that's a massive impact on your business, right?
Yeah.
So the UFC is fortunate enough that it's a big enough sport, it's 100 times the size of CrossFit, that if something like that, like say John Jones tests positive, destroys their entire marketing, destroys their their upcoming campaigns and their fights and their promotion and stuff, it's a big loss for revenue, but at the end of the day, it's not going to kill the company. Whereas, having your entire podium test positive could kill the sport. Could just be looked at the dirtiest sport there is. So,
yeah, it's very possible. I still think it's really unlikely they ever would hide a result. I think it's just most likely they just haven't really caught people.
Yeah, but people will just always say until
probably
it's not legit.
Because I mean, you could imagine if it did turn out like an employee came out and was like, hey, we actually did find these people that never got released, like that would be a controversy that would close to end the sport. More so, I would say, than someone else. Like, we just had someone on the podium get caught, and it hasn't really affected the sport very much.
Yeah, because of the person it was.
Maybe, yeah. But I still think, if it's very unlikely if Ren Fikowski got caught, I think they just move on. Like, I don't think that would be the end of CrossFit in any way, like, surprising. But they would just move on. Whereas, like, if a controversy came out that they were, like, had been hiding all these results for the past quite a few years, an employee came out.
Like an Icarus.
Like a whistleblower.
Yeah.
That would be, like, really, really, really bad. And I was not sure, like, if that's the lengths they go to. Maybe they don't work as hard to catch those people. It's possible. I don't know. But I just think, like, people jump to that, like, a pretty extraordinary conclusion sometimes. That, like, everyone's caught and they're hiding all the results in some crazy safe. And, like, only some get released. I mean, yeah, I can't rule it out 100%. But I just think that also that's, like, a pretty... a pretty out there claim that would have like ridiculously negative implications for the company. Like they could be sued over it. You know, there's like huge implications.
Yeah.
And risks that I just don't know if they would take. I feel like they'd probably just try and dampen the negative effects of a top player.
Look, I'll tell you, it's the middle ground. The middle ground is that they're not finding positive tests, but they're not testing everyone. That's what's really happening.
But everybody gets tested on the podium.
Yeah, everyone gets tested on the podium, but not the entire field gets tested.
That's true.
And also for the tests that they're doing on the athletes, like versus a SARMs test, versus a growth hormone test, versus an anabolics test, all these different tests, you know, they're not running all the tests. They're choosing certain tests to run on the urine samples.
And you think that
Because each test costs a different amount of money.
everybody on the podium potentially would have a different test?
Well, I don't know. They might just test for the most common stuff, the broader stuff, the most bang for buck, but they might not be testing for everything because maybe they know that, or maybe if they tested more regularly year round and invested more money in the testing, they might catch people. You know what I mean? So there's also that element as well because you can train all year and never get tested. I mean, I don't know about Ricky, but maybe he was never tested off season. You know, and that's like,
I presume he hasn't.
That's 8 months that you can go using steroids and not.
Well, like when we spoke to Ryan Fisher, one thing he said, which is probably no surprise to anyone, is he's been tested lots of times.
Yeah.
And he knows other games athletes that have never been tested.
Yeah.
That are better than him. He's never made it to the CrossFit Games.
Yeah.
But they basically admitted that on the video. They're like, we respond to like rumors.
Yeah.
And we try and target. And I guess because Ryan Fisher's just the most jacked motherfucker ever.
So jacked. And they don't like him.
Yeah. There's rumors, I guess, maybe.
But as soon as you bring out an organization that's like, hey, we are testing all the athletes year round at random and it becomes a thing,
it's better.
That's when it cleans up the sport.
Much better.
Because it's not really about the test that you find positive, it's about the test that you didn't do and that you know about. That's really what it is. And that's what happened in UFC. Because they weren't necessarily doing more tests to everyone. It's just like now we're testing, well, they were testing, we're going to test more. It's going to be stricter. There's going to be harder policies. We're bringing in a bigger snitch to end this whole thing. And then all the guys are like, wow, it's way more risky now to juice. And they stopped juicing. And they lost heaps of superstars because they weren't caught, but they had to stop juicing and they were never the same athletes again. So heaps of guys that used to be really good, their bodies changed, they aged faster, they had less power in their punches, their kicks, less endurance, and they just became boring fighters and their careers ended a lot sooner.
And have they outsourced it at the UFC?
Yeah.
So who runs it?
I think it's USADA.
Really?
Yeah. It's the same guy that caught Lance Armstrong.
Yeah. Yeah, it's USADA.
Yeah. It's Derek Nowitzki.
So they would basically have the same testing as if you were like on the Olympic schedule. Like what Matt Fraser used to be on when he was
something
the
like
Olympic
that.
team. Yeah.
Very regular testing.
Yeah.
And that threat of very regular testing, that is what's dials back the use of performance-enhancing drugs. Yeah. All right. Well, that's a good little thing to wrap up on. We've got Patrick Vellner to talk about all this as well on Monday, so very excited for that one. We haven't interviewed him yet if you're listening to this right now, but we will in the next 48 hours. So if you have questions, flick them to us on Instagram or Facebook.
Very quickly.
Very quickly. With haste. Okay, so Ed Sheeran on Monday, and here is Tim Branson to talk about his running stuff with Tia Claire Toomey.
We are here with Tim Branson, who is owner of the Running Lab and owner of very dirty but strong bare feet. I guess everyone's got bare feet, but yours are particularly dirty and strong. And he also was helping Tia out with her running before the games. She did, I guess you could say, very well at the games. So, Tim, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Raph. Good to be back on.
Yeah, we've had you on twice. If anyone wants to go back and listen to more about Tim, I will find his episode numbers for you.
45 I'm looking at, and 68.
Yep. Yeah, I think 45 we went over lots of running stuff, and then I'd say the second one was much more like foot strength because Lockie and I had just been through a bit of the program, and we started the Foot Strong program actually straight after that. But what we're going to talk today about is you've helped Tia out a few times with her running.
Yep.
And I guess she finally listened to you this year. Is that correct?
Yeah, like the rumor has it that she wasn't actually a really good runner before she met me. But no, truth be known, Tia's always been a very good runner, but I've been helping her out the last 2 CrossFit Games seasons. So programming her running and trying to meet up with her at least a couple of times a year and actually work in person when we can. So, yeah, we worked a lot together towards this year's games, and she did quite well.
And did you see, I don't know if you watched the some of those Road to the Games videos, and it was the Road to the Games video, and it was her and like all the athletes were there. So like Camille was there, and both daughters were there.
Both daughters.
And
in Cookville?
Yeah, exactly. And they were doing quite a lot of running. Tia was smoking them all.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like Katrina was like filthy. You could see it on the video. So has she always been a good runner?
She's been a good runner. She ran a lot sort of through high school.
Did you do? I think I heard you did hurdles.
Hurdles, cross country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was her main background.
Yeah. I think she tried lots of different sports, but yeah, that's definitely was heavy on the running. And so when we met up, it was more about what I could input in terms of technique to make her more efficient. And especially in the lead up to this year's games, there's points on the board in every event. And the aim was to sit there and say, righto, these need to be safe points. You know, these running events, whatever they end up being.
Because she's good at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's got to smash them.
That's right. So got to work hard enough on those so they're pretty safe to secure those points. And, you know, the run, swim, run, she came second out of 80 athletes, males and females.
Yeah, that's right. She was right behind Brent.
Right behind Brent. So I was standing, there was a 90-degree turn about probably 400 metres from the finish.
Yep.
And they're coming up, it's pouring down with rain. It's like, you know, if anyone's ever been to Carson, it's boiling, haven't seen rain in years. We're in Madison for the first time and it's pissing down with rain. So they're coming down straight towards us. Brent's coming through the front. And then Tia and Christy Eremo were coming pretty much just in behind. As they rounded that corner, as much as I was yelling at Tia to go, I knew she had it. Because I knew she had a kick. She has a kick on the end of an event or a session that I knew she'd get Eremo on the sprint.
Yeah.
What I'd love to know, and I don't think Brent could even answer this, you know, just be hypothetical, but if they were that much closer to Brent, would he have sped up so that he beat Tia? Like, they weren't far behind, but what if there was another 15 metres in it? And even though there's no points on the line, would he have sped up or would he have saved his energy?
I heard that he thought, I'm pretty sure when we asked him, he thought that another guy was coming.
Yeah.
He heard the steps, and I guess he has no faith in female athletes and presumed it was a man. How is that even possible? How is it possible that two girls are like coming second and third?
I think quality of running and swimming. So the amazing thing is that the girls started behind the guys.
Really?
So, yeah. So there was 40 guys. Now this street is 2 lanes wide.
Because if you were at the Olympics, would I be wrong? But say there was a run, swim, run event or whatever triathlon, the women would not be like beating the guys.
They won't. But if you look at endurance events,
Yep.
the gap between guys and girls does become a little bit narrower.
Compared to power.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the longer you go, so going beyond a marathon, going into an ultra marathon, relatively, it all narrows down a little bit. Now, the thing is that Christy Eremo is a good runner and she's a good swimmer. T is a good runner and she's a good swimmer. There aren't too many guys that are out and out great runners and great swimmers. So they basically, I mean, one of my suggestions was to make sure that Tia knows where Christy is in the event. And if they come out of the water together or close to each other, that's a good thing. Turns out they just happen to be past the 40 guys or 39 guys that started in front of them.
Yeah, it is interesting because it wasn't that different last year. I'm pretty sure Sam Briggs beat nearly all the boys.
Yeah.
In the run. Yeah, I don't know. I thought maybe just because the guys in CrossFit teams seem to get really stocky.
Yes.
They're like really big boys. Whereas I don't know if it's because girls struggle more with gymnastics movement than boys, but they tend to be a lot lighter. They just seem like a lot trimmer.
Yeah, a lot trimmer and probably a little bit easier to be lighter on the ground.
Yeah.
But in saying that, how much do the guys work on actually being lighter and more efficient with their running, as opposed to just, you know, clocking up better times, which again is the general premise of running.
Okay. Well, are you going to see her again for next season, or has she just reached a level of running that no more improvement?
No, we're still working together now. So we speak either to her or Shane. I speak almost on a weekly basis.
And running is still part of her program?
Yep, twice a week.
Really?
Yep.
Even though she's really good at it?
Yep, twice
Why?
a week. It has a huge crossover. It's the same as, you know, our coach Luke Starr.
Yeah.
He sees huge value in the running and the crossover that has to all the other movements in the gym. And it's from developing energy systems that you can then tap into in the gym. And in fact, if you actually train them well in running, then they're already there to use with the barbell or for recovery between sets and between actual movements. Now, unfortunately, there's a lot of coaches out there who don't see that value and they see that running will actually take away from the gains in the gym, take away from the strength. But again, if we just use Tia as an example, she's pretty damn strong as well. She does well in all of the power events.
Strong.
So,
did you hear the podcast with what's the main endurance coach? Henshaw? He was on a podcast. I think it was the Brute Strength podcast. Not that long ago. Anyway, he was talking about for your like endurance training, it's really good to do things where you're moving or like carrying your own body weight. And it's like really important to do that because CrossFit's a sport where you're always moving your own body weight. So things like running is obviously really good because you're actually moving your own body weight, even like burpees or whatever. And like things where you're just like on the rower, on the bike, it can't be like the only cardio you're doing because you're not getting used to your own body weight. Like skipping, I guess, you're using your own body weight.
Spot on. In terms of connective tissue, you're not going to get strong connective tissue on a bike or a rower the same as you are with running. And that's a lot of the work we're doing at the moment with Tia, is doing some connective tissue work, so a lot of barefoot stuff, and making sure that everything in terms of structurally is really, really strong, and also working on flow. So trying to get her to run on feel rather than just on times. You know, as we get closer to next year's season and get closer to the games, there's going to be a lot of workouts that are programmed to be on certain times, hit certain targets, a lot of lactate work, so a lot of pre-fatiguing. So when the hay bale run event was announced, I smiled. I knew she'd do great in that because we've done a lot of work, and not just her, but my other athletes as well who were there, in terms of Hannah Cheminsky won that event in the Masters.
Yep.
And we've just done a lot of work where we actually pre-fatigue with either a short shuttle or some sandbag carries or squats, and then go into the run. And because they'd done all that, I knew that they were going to be really good on those 400-metre efforts, and they weren't going to fatigue as much as everyone else. So the running side of things can benefit everything. And as you know from our Thursday sessions, our Run Like a Boss sessions, we do loads of agility.
Yeah.
Loads of agility. And this is one of my big passions with CrossFit, is it's very up, down, forwards, backwards. You know, it's pretty monostructural in that sense. And that very rarely is anything moving sideways, uneven. So I'm a huge fan of trail running, and I'm a huge fan of agility pieces to sit there and get the body going in different directions so it's actually better balanced. You know, when you go and actually see a practitioner, often they're sitting there trying to get you to do things in different motions and different planes to actually balance out the body better. So I like to sit there and do it with full body weight with running.
And do you have an explanation for how Ricky made the hay bale workout look like a warm-up workout?
He's a beast.
And be a lap ahead of everybody?
He's a beast. Just watching him from the outside, I mean, I've worked with him just a couple of times when I was working with Ben.
Funny thing is, I remember when you worked with them, Ricky was just like brought along to like, he wasn't really invited to the session.
No, he was just hanging out.
He was like, yeah, like you can come and scale the weights.
Yeah, he just trained with Ben, and he was scaling the weights, and then he's just worked incredibly hard over the last couple of years. But here's somebody who, just from the outside, again looking in, is that when it's go time, it's go time. And you know, that sort of field sport, that football sense, you cross that line and it's on. And he's basically not going to let anything get in his way. And if he's struggling, he's just going to go.
And would you say he was one of the better runners out there, or he is a fit dude?
Super fit. He moves reasonably well, and he's pretty light on the ground as he moves. I remember as I watched him, his feet, and this is going back to when we did track sessions. His feet are very, very light on the ground, and so he's got a lot of forward momentum. A lot of people just have a lot of braking force. I've got videos and photos from the Run, Swim, Run on all the different age groups, the teens, the Masters, and the Opens. And again, just the technique is terrible. Sure, they're phenomenal athletes, but if people squatted the same as they're running, their knees would just blow up, their back would blow up, and someone would hopefully pull them aside and actually work with them. And the problem with the running is, again, there's still not many people who are working with mechanics in running. They're working with training energy systems. There's definitely that. But there's not a lot of people who actually working the mechanics. And if you don't own the mechanics and you don't own the efficiency, then you really shouldn't be adding speed and mileage on top of that, which keeps me employed as a podiatrist and physios and chiros and everyone else and surgeons. But realistically, again, every other movement we do in CrossFit, we tend to sit there and focus on the movement quality first, movement pattern, and then hopefully add load and skill after that.
Yeah, you definitely feel that. I don't know, it could be wrong, but I do feel like when I'm sprinting or doing like faster efforts, then it's like a little bit easier on my body and like the damage is not as much. It's when I get into the long and like the volume stuff where I'm running slowly that it's tougher on my body.
Spot on. The biggest skill that I can teach anyone I work with is to run slowly, efficiently.
That's the hardest one.
Yeah, and the reason I tell them that is that when we're fatigued, we slow down. When we're fatigued, we run like shit. And so I always say, if your default fatigued, slow running is really smooth and efficient, not only will you recover better, so your heart rate will actually come down, especially if you can do a little bit of breathing control there, then you've got options. When you get back to the barbell, when you get back to the rings, you can get straight back on it, or you can actually pick up your pace with your running. So you can actually recover whilst running, whereas most people, it's just a downhill slog the whole way. So yes, running slowly efficiently is as important as running fast efficiently, if not more so for me. Because fast is, there's a real limit to how far you can run at a top speed.
Yeah.
Unless you're Canyon and trying to break a 2-hour marathon.
That's actually the video that we reviewed on Thursday.
I have seen it.
After show, Breaking 2, so good.
And if you look at the 3 techniques between the 3 Kenyan runners, there's one whose head and shoulders barely move.
That's the guy. Smooth. He was the best.
Yep, Kipchoge. And the other two...
His head doesn't move
at
for
all.
2 hours.
It doesn't move up, down, sideways.
It is unbelievable.
Yeah. Maybe when he grabs his special
the
gels.
The guy on the bike next to him was bouncing more than he was.
And the other guys, one of them looked like a fighter.
Yeah.
Looked like he was sort of running like Rocky. And whilst they're phenomenal
I think
athletes,
he was the one that struggled the most.
Yep.
The slightly lighter skinned guy.
Yep. And whilst they're phenomenal athletes and what they did even then but previously is amazing, but the technique of Kipchoge is just, you just watch it and it's just poetry. It's just beautiful and it's smooth. And, he's very, very light on the ground. He's got incredible endurance, but he actually moves well over the whole 2 hours.
Yeah, he moved perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, the amazing thing is, one thing that I thought was so incredible was he was so close. I mean, I don't know how close it was, but it was seconds over 2 hours. Pretty
25
close.
seconds, so it was about a second per mile.
But nothing still really changed. He had a bit of facial expression at the end, but he didn't really try anything. He didn't try and run far. It's just the same. And I guess he's just such a high level that if he tried to start running harder and moving the shoulders, it's over.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. He was running as hard as he possibly could.
But it looked like he wasn't trying very hard.
That's right. And, there's some people who you watch run, it's just effortless.
Yeah.
And it's not effortless. It's just that they've got beautiful mechanics. They've got great connection with the body. They're barely even contacting the ground. They're floating across the ground. And that's awesome. And that's why, dealing with runners all the time, I've probably said in this previous podcast, but they're always sitting there going, I'm a heavy runner. And I look them in the eye and I say, don't be. And what I mean is that if you're a heavy runner, you got to do something about it. And if you just use your ears and you run lighter and you run quietly, then you've actually taken care of a lot of the fancy technical stuff without really thinking, just by running quieter. So, yeah, his technique, phenomenal. How you can hold that pace. We test the mile regularly, as you know.
Yeah.
If they made it, they were running 4:34 mile pace.
Yeah, it's out of control.
For 26 miles in a row.
Just under 6 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'm dead all day.
That's right. So 4:34 miles, 26 of them with change.
Yeah, it's seriously next level. Okay, so one thing we do want to mention before we finish was switching gears to inside the gym. Jordan, actually, from CrossFit Schwartz, has been showing off the fact that he runs on one of the Air Runners, the company that took over from the True Form. He runs on it 3 times a week in his gym. How much of a competitive advantage is he getting over everyone else? Is it really special running on a treadmill inside your gym as opposed to out on the street or at the park?
Have you ever gone past one of those 24-hour places or Globo gyms where they're all sitting there on a treadmill, staring at a screen, breathing air-conditioned air? When there's beautiful trails just outside, or there's a beach that you can go and enjoy. But yeah, they're just chewing up the miles. So running on those treadmills is a skill, and it's a skill that pops up once a year. And I don't think that's going to qualify you for the games or not qualify you for the games. So running on it 3 times a week, I think you're missing a huge benefits of what you can get from running outside, running on a track, running on grass, and especially running the trail. Because on the machine, nothing changes. There is no variation. So if you've got a little technique fault, you just chip away at that technique fault, spend enough time on there, and then your shins or knees play up. It's like doing, just millions and millions of back squats, but never alternate with any other form of squatting. Or any
with
actual...
your feet in exactly the same position.
Exactly the same position.
Bar on your back with the same weight.
Yep. Never touching another apparatus. Because you never even go
uphill or downhill or anything.
Nope. It's the exact same. And so whilst you're training one skill, any variation of that, and you're actually not going to cope very well. So any variation with what if they actually make you run outside at regionals next year? Shit, what a wasted year spent inside running on a...
And if you don't go to regionals like pretty much everyone, is there almost no point running on something like that unless it's raining?
You know what? We as humans are very waterproof. So whenever it rains and people sort of ask me if our session's on, I'm like, I promise you, you're waterproof, you will dry, you'll be fine. Now, if you lived in somewhere that was just brutal and cold, or you literally couldn't run because it was just, you're in the middle of a city, things like that, there can be a huge benefit to having those treadmills around. And I think actually spending some time on them here and there is a good skill to have, just so you're familiar with the machine, because when it actually does pop up at regionals next year, and we don't know if it will, but rather than panicking 2 weeks out from regionals and sitting there thinking, shit, now I've got to learn how to run and jump on it, then they do have the skill. But I'd still rather see most of the bulk, being outside and sort of mixed modal, depending on what we're actually trying to achieve with the running. Most people's running is just to get it done. I'd rather sit there and have a game plan of what we're aiming to do, which is not necessarily just run faster, but to run better at any point in time. And if people are serious about qualifying for the games, it's very hard to win the games these days without being proficient at running. In some way, shape or form, it pops up in many events.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to the games or you're trying to go to the games, then it seems pretty silly to practice on the treadmill all year anyway, because then once you get there, then you're pretty fucked.
Spot on. So I think it's a good skill to have in the bank.
Yeah.
And if you got that skill there, fantastic.
But it's not going to magically improve your running more than running outside.
No way.
Yeah.
Not a chance.
Good to know, because I don't want to spend $10,000 on getting them for the gyms. Cool. So, Timmy, where can people find out more about running and your feet and everything else?
TheRunningLab.com. I've got a brilliant new website, which has just been released in the last couple of weeks. It's very clean. It's very easy to find. And if you go onto there's online programs for running. There's online programs for training your feet to be stronger.
And is that a running program for a runner or for what sort of person?
It's actually broken up beautifully online. You can sit there and look at runners and individuals, CrossFit athletes, and practitioner and coaches looking for the workshops to be able to actually learn to teach this. But yeah, my Run Like a Boss programming, which is what Tia and my other athletes use.
Is that what I do?
When you show up, yes. So the Run Like a Boss program, which is weekly program designed to fit in with whatever your current CrossFit programming is, that's the thing that I'd probably like to push out there the most and get people to jump online. It's not a great investment, but in terms of cost, but it's a huge investment in terms of what you're going to get out of it. And again, it's really looking at balancing the body out. Yes, training the skill of running and improving that, but actually improving how you perform in the gym. And that's the goal of most people. They don't want to be a great runner and run a 2-hour marathon. They want to be better in the gym, dragging their butts out of the gym to do some work with the running. And the best feedback I ever get is that most people actually start enjoying it. If that's the case, then we win.
And what's the time investment on something like Run Like a Boss?
About 45 to 58 minutes per week.
Once a week.
Once a week.
Sweet.
Okay. So yeah, less than an hour, and that includes a structured warm-up, a skill piece or agility piece, and then the actual work piece, which generally go in cycles to make sure we're improving what we need to, and then we test every now and then and see how people are going.
Cool. Thanks for joining us, Timmy.
Awesome. Cheers, Raph.